Let's get that stream looking crisp. In today's video, we're going to be changing settings in OBS to make that stream look amazing. If you haven't been here before, my name is Michael and these are my different views. This channel is here to help you improve your quality in streaming or just video creation in general. So if your passion is to live stream to an audience or create content that's viewable at any moment, we have you covered. Let's slide over to OBS and get this set up. Now that we have OBS open, we can go over to the settings here, go to the output tab, and what we want to do is make sure that the output mode is on advanced, because I mean, this is a tutorial, we're going to go over the advanced mode. The second thing that we're going to look over is this audio track. Now you want to make sure that it's ticked on 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, depending on whatever you have your audio sources all going to. Now if you're a little bit confused by this, we can go ahead and go over that real quick. So if we look at the audio sources that are here, which I have none, if I go ahead and I add one, okay, whatever, we go to advanced, you can see here that all these are checked here. We can uncheck these and this will now only be on track number 1. If I have 2 audio sources, I can just add another one real quick and do this. Then we can see that we can also change this as well. And now that they're going to be on 2 separate tracks. So if I had the 1 tick, then only this audio input 1 would be what's going to the stream. So if we want them both to go, we have to make sure that they are both checked and they're both on the same track. They don't have to be on 1, they could be on 2 like this. And then we would just need to head over to our settings, output tab, and hit number 2. So whatever you have all of your audio sources going to on the single track is the one that you want checked here. Second thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over this. Now we can go over this encoder here. What we're going to be using is the nvidia new. We're going to use the new one. Now if you have series 700 cards or above, you're going to be wanting to use this new one. If you have less than that, then you're going to be wanting using the old one or the regular one. If you have AMD, then you use whatever AMD is. I don't know. This is not AMD tutorial. So we're going to be using the new because I have one of the newer ones. The next thing that we run into is this enforce streaming services encoder settings. We want to leave this unchecked. We chose advanced mode for a reason, and this takes away our advanced mode. If you leave this checked, it's supposed to use the default max bit rate that the streaming service allows, which negates us using the advanced mode because it then doesn't even care about whatever bit rate that we put in. So if you need to lower your bit rate for your internet purposes, or if you want to be kind to people who don't have an amazing internet connection to watch your stream, then that'll just get rid of that and won't care. We don't want that. We want to control everything. And speaking of control, let's go over the rate control. So we have 4 options here: CBR, CQB, VBR, and lossless. CBR means constant bit rate, and it stands for exactly that. There's no variation. There is going to be the same amount of bit rate for every single frame that goes by. CQP stands for constant quantization parameter, and that just means that it's going to keep the exact same quality no matter what the bit rate needs to be. So the bit rate will go up and down per frame based on what kind of quality that you want of the image. VBR stands for variable bit rate, which means kind of like what CQB means, and it's going to fluctuate based on what is going on in the frame itself. And lossless is, well, lossless. You don't lose any quality at all. So these, the last 3 that I talked about should be good for streaming, right? Because I mean, we're trying to get the most highest quality, we're trying to get the best photo, the best image that we can per frame, right? So that's going to be the best. No, it's not. We're going to go with CBR, constant bit rate. The reason for that is because CBR is the best for streaming. But why is this? Won't it just be using more data when there's not really much going on and it doesn't really need to? The answer to that is yes, it will. The reason that we want that is because the QoS or latency has some issues when dealing with the variable bit rate, because the transmission control protocol or TCP, wasn't designed to deal with fluctuating bitrate. The TCP enables you and another streaming service, such as Twitch, to talk to each other and exchange information. So when the streaming service starts randomly yelling and then starts whispering, it's kind of hard to keep up that communication. Thus, keeping a constant talking volume, aka CBR, it makes it a lot easier to communicate. So now that we picked that, should we just go with the maximum bitrate that our streaming service allows us? Well, yes and no. There's things that vary between everybody. First, you want to look up your streaming service's limitations, and then you want to look up your own internet's limitations. If you don't know your internet's limitations, head over to speedtest.net and run a test. So if you want to stream at 6,000 kbs, which is what the bitrate unit is measured in, then you're going to need a speed of at least 8 megabytes per second. But also think about this. If your streaming platform doesn't allow you to change the quality options, you may be alienating some people from watching your stream just because they cannot download, they don't have the best internets to actually get your stream and watch it without continuously buffering, so they may just end up clicking off of it. Yes, the maximum bitrate will allow you to have the best quality, best looking stream, but that might lose you some viewers early on when you just don't have that quality option, or if you just don't have the quality option. So say you want to go a little bit lower. If you're looking at 3500, then you want about 5 megabytes per second. Around 2000, then you're going to be needing around 2.5 megabytes per second. And if you're looking to run at these lower bit rates so that the people who don't have great internets can watch your streams, I would suggest just do some tests. Run at those bit rates and see how they look. Record your gameplay at these bit rates and see what's the best, or see what you can is actually acceptable to watch. The best thing you can do is test. Record your gameplay, watch it back, and see how it is. This includes making sure that all the audio is correct as well. So we've talked about this for far too long. Let's move on to the keyframe interval. We want to set this to 2. But why? Why not just leave it on auto? Well, because Twitch recommends 2, so that's what we're gonna do. But what even is this? So every keyframe is an image itself, right? And we are sending over the image to Twitch or to another streaming service that then takes in that data and reads it. Because we have this set to 2, the next keyframe after that will only send over the data that is different from the first one. So it is saving data by doing this kind of steps. And like I said, it's recommended that we use 2, so we're just gonna use 2. And the preset here, well, it's kind of self-explanatory. We want the max quality, so we're gonna go for the max quality. Performance is if you're having issues with OBS and performing on your computer and stuff, we can go for performance to make sure that OBS is performing well and not dropping frames, but we're gonna go with max quality because that's what we're for. Profile, we're just gonna set this to high to make sure that everything is good on that. So the look ahead, you want to uncheck this if you are playing on FPS games, high motion games. This setting will allow the encoder to dynamically determine what kind of B frames that it wants, which we will go over later. It'll go from between 0 and the max amount of B frames that you have entered in the entry at the bottom. Having this checked will take up a lot of your available bitrate, which does increase the image quality. However, it does struggle with motion. For the psychovisual tuning, we're gonna leave this checked. This enables the rate distortion optimization in the encoder, which greatly optimizes the way that you use bitrate, which will improve the image quality on movement. The GPU means what GPU that you're gonna use to encode. We're gonna leave this at 0 because you want this, with the new feature and everything, you want this to use the exact same GPU that your game is using, because the new thing processes within just the same GPU, and everything is designed to use the same GPU. So you want to use the same one. If you do put in another GPU, you can change it to use that other one, but the encoder chips on the GPU are completely separate from what actually produces the FPS in your games. So you're not really going to get a performance increase. And in fact, I even tried this myself. I had a second GPU and I tried to use it for encoding. And I tried to use it for even my other monitors and just have one monitor on the main GPU and the other ones on the other ones, and I was just getting crashes all the time, like straight up Windows crashes, freezes, and I had to hold down the power button in order to reset my entire PC, and this would happen during stream, and it was very frustrating and I couldn't figure it out. Sorry, my recording stopped there. But this was really frustrating. I couldn't figure it out until I removed the GPU, and then it just worked. So I haven't had a second GPU in my system, and my system has not had a single crash since. I'm not gonna put another one in there. It's working, I'm keeping it. Just use one GPU. And max B frames. This is the feature that Look Ahead uses. If you have it checked, that is. We're gonna set this to 2, and then we're not gonna look back at it. If you're playing a lower motion game, you can set this to 4, but like I said earlier, I would do tests with this. Do several tests with this to see if it actually improves your quality overall before going live. Since this does consume quite a bit of bitrate, and it does decrease the quality when movement is involved. With all these settings all changed and everything, you may have noticed that we weren't able to use that rescaling option that used to be here to rescale it down to like 720p so that we can record in 1080p. Yeah, that's going to be a downfall of using this kind of thing. We're not going to be able to rescale it here. We're going to have to rescale it in the video tab, which is a global rescaling. So we're not going to be able to record at a higher quality resolution than we are streaming at. So if we go over to the video tab, we can see here the base is what we want our monitor to be set at that we're recording. And then the output is obviously what we want to be streaming at. I do want to make another note here that rescaling here on this always uses the GPU to rescale. So we're using the same encoder anyway. But if you do it from here, so if we have the CPU as the encoder and we rescale here, it's actually the CPU that's doing the rescaling and not the GPU. This, on this video tab though, is always the GPU when we are rescaling from here. So for the downscale filter, we have 3 choices: bilinear, bicubical, and Lancaster's. The bilinear is not super sharp and it does lose some detail. The bicubical is a little bit sharper than the bilinear and it does retain some detail. The Lanzos is the sharpest on the board in some areas, and it's also smoother in other areas, and it does retain the details. This is kind of like a hybrid between the two. My suggestion would be to start with the Lazos and then move down in line if your OBS is starting to struggle. Again, this comes with that testing. And last but certainly not least is the FPS. Now we have a whole bunch of things to pick here. Pick 60. If you're streaming games, please pick 60. It should be on 60 always for games. So pick that and go with that. If you're streaming anything else, like faces, just things like that, you can go to 29.97 or 30 or 24 if you're feeling a little bit cinematic-y here in the US, because you got some pale versions here and stuff like that. So you know, you got some things there, but if you're streaming games, please just go to 60. There should be no less than that.
Now that you have better footage, tell me, is there something that you didn't know and that you learned about? Is there something you're still stuck on and want to know more about? Or is there something that we didn't go over that you want to know about? Let me know in the comments below. If you're looking to improve other parts of your stream, check out this playlist. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. So until then, stay different.